There's a kill for Tvik. Good start for Florida Mayhem now. A quick double support slaughter from the side of Boston Uprising. The hooks from Manitin have been so good, and Logic's untouched so far. Well, Striker, speaking of carries, man, he's got 3 kills already right now, and Manitin just annihilates Boston, resoundingly winning that fight. Nice shot again from Tvik. Oh, and that is a quick win for Boston Uprising, and that's going to put the period on the end of this sentence.
Los Angeles, are you guys ready to keep this party going? Yeah, that's right. It's time for the second match of the day, and we're getting fired up for this one. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Puckett. We're joined by the full analyst desk once again. It's Bren, Sideshow, and Zoe. Zoe, fantastic finish there for the Valiant. What did Cuddles have to say afterwards? Was he all smiles?
Oh yeah, he was all smiles. Like, as much as you can expect after such an insane game we saw. And honestly, my personal highlight, soon backcapping, not once, but twice, because why not?
Sneaky soon.
Yeah.
They get the job done. Let's talk about the matchup coming up for us now, as we are going to see the second match of the day. Here's your full schedule. Of course, LA Valiant got the 3-0 over the Dallas Fuel, but now we got the Florida Mayhem going up against the Boston Uprising. A little bit later, I think it's going to be past 8, thanks to Dallas and the Valiant. That's going to be San Francisco Shock going up against the Shanghai Dragon. But it's time to introduce our teams to the stage, starting with the squad on the left. Please put your hands together for the Florida Mayhem. The big man Swoosh leading the way, and it was Florida Mayhem leading the charge against the London Spitfire. Ultimately, they fell 1-3 in their first matchup. But I have to ask, Sideshow, did they look improved since the preseason?
Oh, they look miles better than they did in the preseason. This was a team that had a massive underperformance, then possibly down to not being able to practice or extraneous circumstances, but coming into that game yesterday against London, their coordination was back on point to the level that we've seen previously from this roster. Sometimes people forget that this team dominated Europe only a couple of months ago. They were the best European team, and they look like they're trying to get back to that level of performance.
Yeah, they really surprised me yesterday, and one player in specific, Logix, really stepped up his game right there. He, most specifically on map number 3, he was uncontested for the longest time until they just could not ignore his McCree any longer. They had to devote resources to actually take him down because he was killing everyone.
To add on to your point about the players to look out for, I mean, Manitin is probably going to be my man to watch out for. On the flex tank position, his Diva, his Roadhog, he can go onto those roles, and he's actually been playing much better than he was in the preseason. The whole team across the board has been playing much better, but Manitin is one of the people I need to point out because tanks, they often don't get a lot of love.
Yeah, you know, we were talking in the green room with all the talent, and everyone's saying, is Manitin the best player on the team? Well, Logic's performance yesterday makes it an argument. Let's introduce, though, the opposition. On the right side of your stage, please put your hands together and welcome back the Boston Uprising. Now, Boston fell to the NYXL 3-1, but it was a very close match.
It really was. They managed to throw NYXL off guard with their cups in Junkertown. They made this match very competitive. So just like in preseason, they showed us yet another glimpse of their potential.
I'm excited for the squad.
One of the players to look out for here, again, has got to be Striker. We talked about him quite a lot in the games and the matches that were kicking off the other day. But again, this guy's statistics on par with Sabayobi. In fact, slightly surpassing them in terms of the amount of damage, the amount of his accuracy as well that he was putting out. Definitely one of the star players to be looking out for here today.
Yeah, this team is one of the biggest surprises because they took a risk with a lot of this talent. It was unknown. You didn't know what to expect from these guys, but they saw that potential, the hidden gems of Striker and his DPS partner, Dreamcasper, who hadn't played on a top-level Western team before, but is delivering very strong performances. Having said that, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and he does tend to get focused in a lot of these fights. So Boston Uprising have got a bit of adaptation to do to truly crack the elite, but they are certainly looking promising here.
I can't wait to see Dreamcasper back on the Genji. His opponents, they figured out he was shutting them down with the Genji. He was forced off of that hero, and it seemed that Boston started to crumble. Today, we'll see how long will that Genji be in his hands. But let's talk play style here, guys, because this is a very interesting matchup of a whole lot of divers.
Yeah, we actually saw some really good dive from Boston yesterday on Horizon against the guys from NYXL, excuse me. And NYXL even said, like, they prepared specifically against dive. They had a set up strat to go up against Boston. However, it just didn't work. They could not stop the dive. So have high hopes for those guys.
Yeah, to add on to that point, Zoe, I mean, the whole team of Boston were playing a very traditional style of dive composition where it was quite patient, quite passive, but they looked for opportunities and they took them at the exact right times they needed. It showed a lot of promise compared to what we've seen from them in the preseason, and I've got high hopes for them.
Sideshow, real quick question for anyone out there who is new. Welcome, of course, but can you explain what does the dive composition mean and what should we expect from each of these teams?
Sure, they both have very similar styles and they both play what we like to call dive comps. So you'll have a Winston and a D.Va, they're your main tank compositions, normally leading the charge. They'll choose their right time and initiate. And then you frequently have flankers on your DPS like the Tracer and the Genji. They're going to approach either from different targets to try and sandwich or just sync up the timing really nicely to burst down players very quickly. And so it gives you a great composition that you can play very aggressive with and you get early picks. And picks are almost everything in Overwatch. As soon as one player goes down, you're at a much higher chance of winning that fight.
All right, real quick prediction starting with you, Bren. You won the last one. Where are you going this time?
I was super undecisive with this one. I'm still quite undecisive now. This is going to be a very close matchup between these two teams, but I'm going to be going for Florida to take this one.
Sideshow?
Oh, that's a bold prediction. I think, actually, if Florida keep up this kind of level, they could win. But I'm expecting Boston Uprising, with the level of coordination we've seen from them and the standout performances of Striker in particular, they're the team to watch.
So you're the tiebreaker. Is it Boston or are you going Florida here?
Why are you putting me in this position? I'm going to say Boston, but I do think it's going to be a very close one.
I want to hear from the crowd. Who's cheering up Florida for this game? Who thinks the Boston Uprising walks away with the first win? It's time to find out as we send it backstage. Take it away, Semler.
Thank you, Puckett. And yes, this is it. Second match of the day, Boston Uprising in Florida. Hex, we're at a bit of an advantage here because we casted both of their games from yesterday's matches as well.
Got to see them both yesterday, and they both took maps off of teams that we consider to be better than them. So I think like the sky's the limit for both of these teams. Of course, you see the Florida Mayhem right here. A lot of talk about Logix and Manitin. Swoosh looks real loose, though. Perhaps the emotional leader of this team.
He's just throwing off the weight, you know, all of the tension and everything. That's how he gets all limbered up and ready to go. I mean, you want your tank to be, you know, flexible. He's the one who's needed to be creating space for you. And so, you know, that's good because we've got Boston Uprising. These guys also impressed yesterday. I mean, a lot of talk about Striker going into this, but I mean, I feel like Dreamcasper also had his moments.
Yeah, Casper had some really nice moments. I want to look at the Tracer versus Tracer, or colloquially referred to as TVT between these two teams. Logix, we know what he can do.
StarCraft 2, Hex.
Well,
gotta get that
there
out
is
of the way real quick.
PvP, there is TVT, and there is EVZ, so maybe it is. Dorado, you'd have to think the advantage goes to Mayhem, because this is a map that they were able to take off of London yesterday.
Yes, and this is exactly. I mean, we've been seeing so much of it as well, really. You know, in the preseason, going into the regular season matches as well. I mean, it's been a lot of Dorado, and what does that mean? It gives you a lot of chance to study what the opposition are up to, and also work out the kinks in your own roster. And so, very curious to see what they're going to bring to the table today. Both of these teams should be able to have some adjustments coming in from the match that we saw yesterday. But here's the fly-through of the map we're going to watch and see the path that payload that they're going to be pushing across, escorting across the map, where it's going to go.
And this is often referred to as courtyard. This is where a second defense will often happen after you just saw Archway a little bit more wide open, but often you can put a McCree in here because he's got places to hide behind, some fountains. This second archway we're going through is our Widow perch up top if you want to play a Widow on the defense, and then that Widow can be on the second point. Up to your right here is where the biggest fights are going to happen on high ground. If you want to go real tank heavy on offense, you can do it and force the defense to eventually have to drop down on you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get too deep into it. I mean, it probably still stings for fuel, but you need to stay on the payload, right? You have to kind of keep a presence there, and if you're on defense, you need to have a presence on it to stop its progress across the map. And so that is one way, one option. Eventually, the defenders have to come to you and take a little bit of a fight. And so now we'll see the setups here, both of these teams with their roster set. Does anything actually stand? Well, we do have Zupe on a Hanzo. That's interesting to at least start, but he's on the attacking side, so he can still swap out.
That means nothing. The attacking side means that oftentimes, though, you can run a Hanzo just to do that Sonic arrow out and see where everyone is and see what they're running. On defense, they're running an Ana, which is a little bit of a mix-up, but that's because these tanks want to sit up here on the perch. And yes, a healing orb is good, but Ana's healing output is so much better from a distance that that's why you see Ana on first point defense here.
Exactly, you get that range, the scoped heals and the deeps, and well, I always get excited for the sleeps as well. But we're definitely not going to be sleeping here because already the action coming through. Swoosh wanting to clear the high ground right out, and it looks like a fairly standard setup here for Boston Uprising, having those players on the rooftops to try and plink shots down at that payload.
Yeah, the tank mating dance kicks it off. We've seen that's how Dorado starts every single time. Both tanks go up, both tanks drop down, just seeing where everyone's out. And now you're going to see the DPS try to get to the back line. That's exactly what Lodge is looking for, but they're expecting it.
Yep, ready for it. The D.Va is there to mine the back line to make sure that those squishy healers aren't going to get picked off too quickly. They are giving quite a bit of ground early on, but that's because they can still set up the defense here, Boston Uprising, around this archway here. So we should see them looking to try and take some kind of engagement fairly soon here.
You want to rotate on the defense there. You don't want to give up this progress up the archway for free because you want the cart dead in the center here. You want him to have to push either right or left side in the corridors, which is why we've even seen a Doomfist on this map, because you don't want to be in the hallway with a Doomfist.
I thought those were down points. I thought there was down points. Right now, Boston Uprising, we've already had the nano out. And so some additional damage getting pumped out makes the target harder to kill as well. Logix, you can see him going to work, and he's used that pulse already. But there are so many kills coming in here for Florida Mayhem. They are getting the picks. It was mentioned on the desk. That's what you have to do. You got to get the kills. That's going to weaken the defense, and that allows you to just keep up the pressure like this. Logix, he's relentless.
2 down, 3 down. This should be first point. Now the big question is, how is Boston going to respond to the threat that is now Tavik on the Widowmaker? They know he's there. Offensively, you can set up on this perch, which is right above the payload right now, and try to get some pot shots in after your tanks are taking this high ground advantage. So we'll see what they want to try to respond to it. Maybe you can have your Soldier 76 do it, but that is a non-winning gambit.
You already have Dreamcaster for Boston kind of rotating over there onto that balcony. He has his tack visor up and ready to go, so we'll see when he decides to pull that. But for now, just poking. That was a very quick take at the first point, though. On Dorado, sometimes you can really see teams get stalled out there in that archway, but you got to give it to Florida Mayhem. They've done a very good job pushing the payload closer to the second point very quickly.
Yeah, they're just playing chicken. The rotation was just a little bit better for the offense than the defense was around that archway play. Now they're going to try to take the high ground here, some aggressive defensive tank play. So he gets in, gets out, has the orb on him, so it's no problem. Now, Boston does have a Valkyrie up, one of the most important and impactful ults in the game for the Mercy, which means essentially if you can get both reses off, you're fighting 8v6.
Yeah, that's the big one, and it's all going to be about his teammates not getting picked early. He wants to have 8v6. He doesn't want to be bringing them back up to 6v6, but Tavik having to play a bit of hot foot here. He's trying to stay alive because they could swap onto him at any point in time. Striker does pick off Zupe in the mix. That's a fantastic first kill, and there's that tactical visor. Both supports down, and that's going to mean that Florida, they have to peel back. They have to give space.
The tactical visor did take down the Mercy, but I have to question, maybe it's better to hold on to that sometimes for an ulting Mercy, because it's one of the most reliable ways to take her out of the sky. Like a moth to the flame, she is drawn to that fire of the wide scope. So we'll see if that ends up coming back to bite them. But if you can just see an opportunity to win a fight, essentially for free, it's hard to not take it.
These guys are paying very close attention to their ult economy right now, though. Both teams still rocking 3, soon to be having 4. It was really Dreamcasper with the tank visor in that last fight to do the damage. So waiting to see who's going to lose that game of chicken between the supports. Who's going to pop Valkyrie first? Who's going to be forced to use Transcendence? Because that's going to make the difference here. Striker thought he was going to go for the pulse bomb there in the group of them. That would have been big.
Yeah, they do end up popping the Valkyrie on both sides of things here. You see the instant resurrection on Kalios, who had fallen. I imagine Tavik gets brought back. He does. Meanwhile, there is a self-destruct that took down Neko. He's brought back to life. Now these deaths will be permanent.
And Neko is gone, and he loses the opportunity to use his Transcendence as well. Striker picks Tavik out of the air, though. Big kill, and the follow-up pulse. Striker already styling. I'm loving it, and they continue to make progress here, though, Florida. He's getting kills, but the beefy targets, they're actually on the payload.
I really like that the offense has kept a constant pressure on this payload. There's always a body there, and Boston maybe not in ideal situations to defend, have just had to drop people down here and not having to sacrifice position to do so.
And Zebasai is just feeding right now, generating ult percentage. Getting those heals on the Manitin. That's a good job on Manitin's part, making sure that his healers can start preparing for their ults. So Manitin, this is it. There's the dive to high ground, putting the pressure on here. Don't want to let Dreamcaster get too comfortable, and he's dancing left and right, and he's still somehow alive. The Biotic Field doing a fantastic job of keeping him up.
And meanwhile, Tavik did take down Kelix, so that is a huge source of healing already gone. There's another kill. They've not really had a great answer to Tavik right now. He's doing everything that he wants. Logix takes a walk off the edge somewhere, or maybe he got himself his own pulse bomb possibly, but it's still Tavik. They're sending tanks after him, but it's been non-effective.
Talking about a game of chicken there, Manitin there to back up Tavik. That is so important. You need your tanks to get up there to the key targets and provide support. Tavik getting topped up as well. But I love how he's just staring down the barrel, you know, like, okay, who's going to drop the defense matrix first here? Kalios, are you going to veer off, or are you really going to come after me here?
Kellex has spent about the last 30 of the last 40 seconds in spawn. They are going after him extremely hard. That life on Mercy has been miserable for him so far. This isn't a point where you always want to run an offensive Widowmaker, but if you're Tvik, who's literally on fire right now, you just stick at it.
You get that damage boost coming in from Zebasai as well if he wants it. And he is already ready for this flank. He misses the headshot, though. There was an opportunity to do some serious damage to Gamsu, perhaps even slow him down a little bit. Instead, Gamsu just going to be playing around in the shield. That's his playground. That's his safe space, you know, the little bubble.
It's a cool angle, though. If they don't see you coming there, then you get back on that ledge. I think he wanted to grapple up there had there been no tank or no presence over there. And then you're shooting from behind them, and you still have an escape path onto the cart to the rest of your team.
Well, we're getting close to that 2-minute mark now. Florida, they've made pretty decent progress, but on this third point with the spawn located right on top of it practically, it's very difficult now to make this push happen for Florida, and Tvik already going for the roster change there, for the hero change. Going to be on that McCree.
See, most of them posturing up right side. That silhouette in the distance is going to be their tracer to try to pull them off. Ideally, you want to get up on the right side. That's where the defense is going to be entrenched. That is their defender's advantage, but now they're just going to put pressure on the cart, and it's got them this far.
Keeping an eye on Tvik right now, because he's definitely going to be the one looking to do the damage. Flash gets eaten up, and so no free kill for him there, and he has to give ground. This is starting to get a little dicey here for Florida, down to 1:30. In that first fight, that poke did not go the way that they wanted, and Tvik really had no opportunity to generate any ult charge there at all.
They're going halfway to a composition which is meant to catch the dive. In the pregame, we talked a little bit that Boston is known as a dive team, always wants to be aggressive even on their defensive play. Now to catch that dive, McCree is good, a Junkrat is good, and that's what we saw played against them yesterday from New York. So Florida transitioning partially into that with the McCree play.
Showing some versatility, and that's interesting to see considering they are the roster with only 6. There we go, Tvik dashes out, saves himself from the bomb in the nick of time. Striker almost pulling off the big play, but Tvik just too quick for him. And now it's all on Striker, kind of pestering here in the background. He's going to get tickled a bit before having to give out.
They do end up resurrecting Tvik, though, so Striker has to be wary of these flashbangs as they duel below us. Now Casper waiting for a moment to find this blade. May not even need it right now. They've already invested a Valkyrie.
Whoa, nice pick from Dream, though. Gets the dash and follow-up kill on Zupe as well, single-handedly eliminating those backlines players. And while this is looking like a fantastic turnaround here for Boston, they have really locked down this third point. Only 30 seconds left for Florida Mayhem to make the play.
It was fantastic. They used their Valkyrie there, but look at all the healing that Kellex has done since then. Already at 41%, so if this goes into a long, drawn-out battle, which it very well may, he could get up to another Valkyrie, a big advantage over Zebasai's charge, which is at 17% of his own Valkyrie.
Man, and this is actually causing Florida to doubt themselves a little bit here. Tvik, again, with the changes, swapped over to the Junkrat, just not able to get any kind of momentum going there with the McCree, and so we'll have to see if it works out. High ground occupied by Boston, and Dream Casper is going to go straight in, and once again, straight onto the supports. Tvik, no chance for him to shine whatsoever. And this is just a Dream Casper show right now between him and Striker. They've done a fantastic job of getting on top of the squishies.
Both supports now down for Mayhem, so it's all over but the crying. Maybe they can get someone on here for a miracle and try to stall some out, waiting for their supports to come back in, but it is a lone scientist on the payload. That's going to be a nice defense from the Boston Uprising.
That, it looks like, or it feels just a little bit like Boston. They needed some time to warm up there almost. The pieces were there for the first and second point, but it just weren't quite able to get it to gel. But on that third point, that was a total shift, a total turnaround.
Yeah, I think Florida needs to take a little advice from Mike Ehrmantraut of Breaking Bad fame. No half measures here. They only went to a Junkrat one time. They had a McCree one time. Logix at that point might have to switch off of it. We've seen the McCree and Junkrat be so good at catching the dive that Boston gave, and they only did one of the two heroes every time. If you know they're going to dive, you really have to set yourself up compositionally to be able to catch it correctly.
And so we will be swapping the signs, of course. Now the countdown has begun, and we can see just a little bit of a glimpse there at Kellex's screen, at least. Maybe the Lucio will get locked in. I mean, as far as Boston are concerned now, do you think that they are the ones who have that momentum going? Is it going to be Florida on the back foot here going into the second half?
Well, where Boston struggled in their very typical composition of running dive was generally on the defense. So offensively, dive is usually a better thing to work with, and this map in particular has some angles you can take in the dive. And I would definitely favor Boston here, which is surprising. As we mentioned coming into this was a good map for Florida yesterday. It was a map that they were able to actually take away from the Spitfire. So it gets a little dicey if they drop this first one.
Yeah, this is where you want that strong start. Both of these teams lost their first matches yesterday as well, so keep that in mind. They're rocking an 0-1 record, and so you want to be, you don't want that to continue. You do not want to be down 0-2. You want that feel-good moment a little bit early on here in the league.
At the end of the match, one of these teams is going to have a better record than the Dallas Fuel.
That's mind-blowing.
Right?
That game earlier, if you missed it, check out the VODs for sure. That was so sick. The Hometown Heroes Valiant, man, they really took it to the Fuel today.
Florida's going to run Logix on the 76, and he really shined in that role. It's really nice to see Logix stepping out of just the idea of being a pure tracer, and they've asked him to do a lot, and he's definitely stepped up to the plate. Boston offensively going to open the door with 2 sniper heroes. Maybe that's just for the Sonic Arrow from Dreamcasper, but they want to put Striker on the Widow as well, so an interesting combo.
Keeping an eye on Dreamcasper, he does seem to be hanging in here though. Don't see him really going back to spawn just yet, and so we might actually see it stick. He's hitting a couple of shots so far. He's up to 24% on the ult charge. But now it's a matter of just maintaining. They haven't been able to get rid of the man, Tvik, who's still hanging around out on the rooftops.
Well, you got to give Zupe a ton of credit for that because he has been hitting him with that long-range healing. He's been trying to be harassed by the Diva, but Zupe's keeping them alive. And so far, no pressure up top.
Oh, there it is.
That was tense.
Play.
That made me really anxious because it took way too long to actually fire that scatter shot. He follows it up by taking down the man who's been keeping people alive in Zupe. Zebo's going to bring him back to life knowing how important those supports are.
It is satisfying when Hanzo, you get that headshot with the arrows because it takes a little bit of time, right? So you're like, did I get it? Did I get it? Ah, yeah. Anna down for the dirt nap. And well, Gamsu, he's got the primal raise. Definitely going to be holding on to that one. Instead, going to be feeding some ult charge over to his healers. Making sure that they're feeling pretty good about themselves. Neko just got the Transcendence going for himself. And Kelix, well, you can hear the wings. They're no longer deployed.
Casper really opened the door for him, so they had to stop worrying about the Tracer. Now he can shut down the door with an arrow. He's going to do it right to the right side while everyone else is watching left, so they only have to worry about one angle of aggress.
Pretty much using the Dragon Strike there to just buy more time to cut off that right entrance. Both of these teams are dealing with the choke points now, and Dreamcasper doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He just gets pummeled to death by Swoosh. But the point is still making progress. Manitin crouching on the side, trying to buy time, and he will get his mech back, and so that obviously makes that job a bit easier. But Gamsu, his target priority right now, he is on point. Him and Kalios just ganging up on Zeba's side.
Yeah, Striker definitely picked up the slack there as they lost Dreamcasper early, and he continues to do so on the ground. And look at that, 3 swift eliminations from Gamsu. Him and Striker working that dive composition to perfection.
Just working together as a unit. I'm loving the communication here. Real shift. But that's what you need to be doing when you've got Mercy down low. When she has her ultimate, when Valkyrie is going, she is constantly regenerating HP as well. And so when you're trying to tickle her with your taser, it's not quite enough.
So often people talk about combos, oh, the DPS combo and the support combos, but when you're running dive, that Tracer and Winston, if they are on the same page, it is so much sustained damage that you can't run away from, and the initiation has to be there. You'll see often that the Winston will jump in and you have no idea where the Tracer is, and then she's from the other side like a Velociraptor.
Yes, soon the French Velociraptor. There we go! Zupe, he's gone, but he does get rezzed immediately by Zebasai. Very quick play there from the Mercy to keep her teammate, I guess, technically in the fight. And so Striker, you can see, I mean, he's just dancing around on the edges, just farming up a little bit more here, trying to keep the pressure on, and sure enough, he's right on top of it. Zupe gone again. Both kills of him, at least, going Striker's way.
It might be time to start switching into an idea of maybe catching the dive again right now, because they're really struggling with dealing with his very aggressive nature. A McCree or a Junkrat, even a Roadhog, which Dreamcasper has played before, excuse me, as Manitin can play on the other side of things, to be able to just stop these flankers. And a Roadhog is also a really good counter against a Winston.
Exactly, you get that hook, you can pull him out of position, get him out from under his shield. So that does add to the pressure. Kalios just jumping right in. Tvik will get the shot on Dreamcasper, that's huge. Putting a halt to that, and I believe the Dragon Blade had come out as well, and so no use out of that ultimate.
He is brought right back up. Kalios is trying to get back into his mech, and he's looking at the other pilot, Diva. Baby Diva battles go the way of Striker early on as he cleans up Manitin. Manitin brought back to life, but I have to think that this is actually going in the way of Boston Uprising.
I'm really curious to see when Kalios decides to go for the self-destruct here. If he's going to make the call and make the use of it. It seems like they have the advantage, at least as far as the staggers are concerned, and the self-destruct, nothing there. However, for Manitin, no big kills, and right now, Boston, it feels like they are very much in control of the situation.
They're absolutely in control, and now they're going to try to hunt down this Zenyatta towards the end, but they don't want to give him any extra kills there as he peek around the corner. They will take the push. They have to wait for this door to open, and, doors in Overwatch, not great. That is one of the problems with getting split spawn like that. Nothing Zebo could do there as Striker an unwelcome welcoming party.
Yeah, padding the stats, getting a bit of the feel-good moment there. Thanks for the freebie. And now we're going to see, look exactly there, that white box, that's how far they have to push the payload to win this map, Boston Uprising, and that is not very far at all. So the pressure is really going to start ratcheting up here for Florida Mayhem. They have to hold, and here comes the initiate. Diva just flying right through, but swoosh just gets obliterated immediately.
And Zupe ends up popping the Transcend, but very patient from Casper, waits for that light to die out, and he will treat them all to the shiny side of his blade.
Yeah, it's also the sharp side, and that's not the side you really want to be experiencing if you're on Florida Mayhem. It's a bit too close to cut.
There is no side of a blade I want to experience, broadside or sharp side.
Oh, there we go. Kalios is the style. Logix just darts in, hoping to delay things just a little bit further. Zebasai kind of dancing on the edge, trying to keep his teammate alive. But that point, it is right on top of it, and they are not able to put a halt at all, Florida Mayhem. It will be Boston who pick up the first map, and they really turned it around. It looked a little shaky for them at the start of this, but they definitely brought it together with the comms at the end.
Mayhem was in a tough spot there on defense because ideally you want that high ground and you want your Soldier 76 to be able to rain down constant damage. But since the card only had to go there, they were pressured into fighting on the low ground, unable to hold their defense.
Yeah, they never really felt like they could get comfortable either. The stagger kills, the one we saw there on Zebasai, you're never really able to just like, right, we are in position. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have the second map of our second series of the day.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel and Omen by HP.
Overwatch League represents a different direction than esports have taken in the past. global community of professionals for a truly global league.
This is truly, watching these videos gives me chills because it really shows you how everything has come together here. And I mean, not only are the players here with us playing on the stage, but we got an audience as well. They're playing in front of the home crowd. Some of these teams, Valiant and Gladiators, right? It is just such a sick experience.
Yeah, when I'm not casting, I like to sit out in the audience. It's an
Yeah,
awesome
let's
experience.
figure it out there, yeah.
If you're in the area, come down to the studio. It is a grand time. It's also a sick trophy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't feel like we get to see it enough. I kind of want to like see it center stage. You know what those teams are playing for. We'll get into that. Second map will be coming up now in this series. No subs for either of these teams. They've decided to stick to their guns. And so, well, we kind of got a bit of a feel now for Boston and where they're at. It's going to be a question of whether Florida can turn things around here on map 2, which is going to be Anubis.
As we mentioned that Dorado should have been Florida's favorite map because that's what they won yesterday. This map type might suit Boston very well. Boston was able to win Horizon Lunar Colony, of course, yesterday against New York Excelsior. And Assault, one of the reasons I think that Boston's going to be good at this is because you need a good Genji to close out Assault. The reason being you need those 3 and 4 kill ultimates, and that's what Dragon Blade can get you.
You told me that that's almost like by default. You just get 3-4 kills with Dragon Blade.
Yes, it's true.
I tried it earlier and it just didn't work. I don't know. I was like looking up at you. This guy, last time I'm listening to him.
As soon as you hit Q, they just automatically selects 2 people at random, RNG, and they die.
Oh, so we're playing Hearthstone.
Yes, I'm always one of them somehow. Even in quick play, the Genjis get 4 kills in Dragon Blades.
That is agony when you're up against a good Genji, and then you know you're playing like McCree, try flashbang him. Of course, he's reflecting. You just feel really bad about yourself. But the Genji, he's feeling great. He's loving it. So we're gonna see, man. This is, you're right. You know, one of those maps where we see a lot of the dive, we see a lot of the Genji play, and Dream Casper, I feel like over the past couple of days now, he's really shown us that he is quite a capable Genji player. He's good with the sashimi, you know, with the blade handle.
Now I'm hungry. Thanks.
Yeah, it is getting a little later in the day.
It's get that time.
You know, perfect. I mean, this is the life, right? If you're here on the West Coast, you know, you're cooking dinner at home, you got your match on to watch while you're doing it. You know, sit down, eat, and watch Boston and Florida just go clashing into each other. It's the life.
But no surprise here for the Boston defense. That is as pure of a dive composition as you will see. You've got Winston, you've got Diva, you've got Genji, you've got Tracer. Healers, of course, interchangeable, but you generally want to Zen with this as well to keep your flanking defenders alive.
This will be interesting, just because we have Tvik running the Widowmaker on the other side. In general, you want to see, you know, Widow getting countered by Widow, but turns out that you can also have a sniper in the form of Zenyatta. Neko starting strong, taking down Logix. That's such a valuable kill.
Yeah, I believe someone that we know would call it a bloodthirsty support, and that's going to delay their next push just by a little bit here. You can't go into this without your Tracer player. She needs to be distracting in the back line and opening up those sight lines. Otherwise, they're just going to get in their hidey holes, and Tvik's never going to have a shot.
A valuable time taking off the clock. Well, we have a little bit of variety here, and well, that's a good way to bring it back. Kelix is out of the fight immediately. That means no reses, no ult charge either for him. That will delay that all-important Valkyrie, and so things could actually look up here for Florida, although as I say that, they are still losing members. Boston, even without the Mercy, they're getting the fight done.
Logix has to be on tilt alert right now because that is twice he's tried to go to the back line, and Neko has put him right back into spawn. Third time and you're out, and you just stop going after that Zen, which changes your target priority for the Tracer.
Gonna be looking to see exactly Striker. He's nearly got the Pulse Bomb as well. But Gamsu's done a fantastic job charging up his ultimate as well. So this is actually shaping up to be quite a solid defense here for Boston. You know, Kelix, just mind your sight lines, don't get picked again, and things are gonna be looking up.
Tvik just looking for the angles to find, and everyone's fighting in very different places right now. Kelix and Neko go down to Logix. The redemption tour begins.
Whoa, and so Striker eventually gets the frag on Tvik, but this is actually getting a bit hairy. Manitin raining rockets in onto the point, doing as much damage as possible, and now it's a matter of dealing with this Tracer, who is obviously going to be darting around trying to buy time, challenge on the point, but that's where it ends, just like that. It's Caster Curse. I was praising them, they were looking great, and then Florida just find all of the kills in the blink of an eye.
Well, I mentioned Logix. He got picked off the first 2 times he got in, and then he finds this perfect angle. He is the hammer to the anvil. His tank set up and simply crushes all the support.
Fantastic. That hit squad, that death ball, when you really get that dive rolling in together, there's so much damage that it can really turn on a knife's edge.
Preemptive Valkyrie comes in here too, as Florida knows they have a giant advantage in the ultimates, but Logix again goes down, has to burn a res on him to bring him back to life. Both reses now out for Zupe, as Kelix is nearing his own Valkyrie.
Yeah, but we do have the Dragon Blade out here for Dream Casper. He's looking to try and do as much damage as possible. Can they cancel it out? Yes, they can. Defense Matrix there, deleting rockets left and right, and so Zebasai not getting nearly as much out of that ultimate as he was hoping. And this is Boston able to catch their breath. You can see they're just toying with mana. Just draw it out. Make it as painful as possible.
Never feels great. Always want that stagger. Of course, you want to stagger these kills as late as possible, because in Overwatch, if you don't go into 6, you might as well not go in at all. So getting those kill spawns reset just buys you those valuable seconds right there. Florida had everything they were looking for, but then Logix again challenged Nako, which he's got to be a little worried about that. It's the third time he's been able to pick him off. They threw every ult they had at it, although on the other side of things, Boston did have to use a support ult to keep themselves alive on defense.
Yeah, they did. They both have them, but we still have Gamsu and Kalios who are rocking there. So we do have those tank ultimates in play, those beefy guys. They'll be even harder to kill when those come around. And so Nako, you can see in position trying to rain some orbs in with the volley. Not quite going to connect. Just looking for the snipe, but we've seen him do it before, and a little bit of damage dealt there.
And Nako is just kind of keeping himself safe. No one's going to be able to flank him. He's hanging out with his tanks right now. The I gotta watch would probably be Tvik right now if they even go in, because Tvik is going to be the guy to try to close this out on the Reaper switch. The defensive Reaper, not something you always see.
And what you don't really see that often either is an attacking Sombra on this second point. This is going to be interesting. And he's already out of the fight, and so that EMP not going to be too much of an issue. I was kind of feeling bad for Dreamcast. I was like, man, he's really having a tough time with those shotguns. You know, it's you can't really shoot too far with them. You know, wasn't quite connecting with the tanks, those big juicy targets he wants to go after.
Yeah, I think yesterday we were treated to one of the very first Semlerisms, shooty shotguns.
Damn straight, shooty shotguns. I mean, that's all I'm doing, right? You know, when I'm playing, I was like, shoot, and then you just start, and then you knock over your monitor, and everything ends sadly. But you get excited, man. Reaper is a lot of fun to play, and especially to counter as Sombra, because hey, you know, you can EMP me, that's fine. I've still got the shooty shotguns. I'm still gonna blast your face off, and things are gonna end poorly for you. So, I mean, this is gonna be on Zebasai. What can he do with his ult?
They're playing with fire right there. Got out there with 2 HP, but now he's got the EMP ready. He will translocate aggressively in EMP, and that dies right away to the self-destruct. We'll see if his team can pick up the slack.
Yeah, that might have been enough, though. Dreamcasper is still alive. He's still gonna be able to blast people, and Calyx as well, getting those reses off, and so what looked real promising is kind of fluttering a little bit here in the wind. Zebasai will find Dreamcasper, so that's a big kill. And Tvik, not really, he's just doing the damage at this point. And so it does look like Florida, they've got a situation here that they could come out ahead in.
Both Valkyries have been exchanged, and Florida definitely in the right side of the kill feed where they need to be. Every kill coming in, but Boston, all you need to do to tip this back is get 1, maybe 2. Death Blossom looking to be set up. He will just jump off of the point, knowing that he's got Primal Rage to keep this point alive.
Yep, gonna be dancing right back out and forth again. Dreamcasper, though, Tvik able to hunt him down. That was a big kill, but Gamsu finds the back line.
Yeah, it's a great kill to take down the Mercy in that fight. That's so much healing down, and because Gamsu hit that man with his glasses, they should be able to stabilize on defense. They have given up a permanent 33% in 1 tick. Now it's time to signal the retreat. A little over 2 minutes left for the offense.
Some time to work with here, and Zebasai, he's done a fantastic job of charging up that EMP again, and so they will have that entry. Hopefully it goes better for him this time than it did last time. That was a little unfortunate. I mean, yes, he sacked himself to the self-destruct, but he did set up his teammates to be able to at least pick up, you're right, that 33% on the point, so they won't lose that. Big thing here, though, is Dreamcast. We're going to have to keep an eye on him to see when he decides to go for the Death Blossom.
Yeah, the EMP could be big to take down the defense matrix and make sure that Logix can get in there with the false bomb. Logic's already there. He's just going to throw it right at the D.Va anyway.
Demeched and already dead, and there we go. Tvik, one of his. Dreamcasper was trying to go for the Death Blossom, but he gets snuffed before he can get any kind of impact out of it, and this is big. Now Florida, they're in a situation now where they can continue to stagger frags. Neko comes back into it, but he's got to dart back around the corner just to stay alive, and they are making progress, Florida. There's one, and can they finally close it out? No! It's not going to happen. Kalios is there to buy even more time for his team.
They got 2 kills there, so there's only 4 remaining members of the Mayhem on the point right now trying to close this out. They're going to try to stall it out, but yet another Primal Rage. That shows you the impact that Gamsu is having. That's 2 fights in a row that he's had 1,000 HP.
That is unbelievable how quickly he is charging it up. That is buying so much time. Tvik, that's what Reaper excels at, taking out the big targets with those shotties, but now it's just a matter of him demecking and just trying to stay alive. He is, I mean, basically, you can last a long time with Reaper as well. You have the life leash that'll keep you up so long as you're dealing damage, but eventually it will come to an end in a bit of a chaotic fashion.
Absolutely. Boston made the transition to a stall-out composition. They added a Lucio into the mix so he could get onto the point faster, added a Mei into the mix so she can be that annoying ice block. That was a very solid defense, though. Given what we've seen in the last couple days where teams don't know what the defense word is,
It's, you know, if we want to go after the Valiant and the Fuel, where defense is just an idea, it doesn't actually exist.
It's a vague notion.
You know, just strong offense, Hex. That's what it's all about. It's much more fun to be on the punching side than on the receiving.
The best defense is a good offense,
There you
so
go.
they say.
I heard Doomfist is really, you know, happy with that one. He likes that a lot. Now, I mean, you can see Swoosh, he's trying to pump up his mates right now, and they need it, I think, because they know that that wasn't a crushing win for them. They don't have a whole lot of time in the bank, and so if they aren't able to shut the doors here, Florida Mayhem, if they aren't able to shut the doors in Boston's face, it could get a bit hairy for them.
It's really underlies the importance of a clean entrance, because when you saw Logix get picked off early a couple times, you really can just get away with taking point A with trades, because the walk back to get to point A on defense is so long that on A, if you can trade 1-to-1, then eventually you have a man advantage in the next fight, and a man advantage in the next fight, and you snowball that so that you can take point A easily. The fact it took them so long to get A is largely because their entry got botched a few times, well, I mean, in large part to Neko.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he kept just getting picks with his Zenyatta. That was actually disgusting. And so now we get to see, are we going to see more of the same? I mean, I like to see the Junkrat with Vic. There's a lot of choke points you can try and, you know, bottle up with your frag grenades. And so that is something. We do see the Junk a little bit. And then obviously Logic's on Tracer. There's no shock there.
Yeah, Junk has been a very played hero on this map, even before he got a little bit of the buff treatment too. He's always good at locking down one of the two doorways. And if you see a Junk, you generally just try to maybe even go to a Lucio to speed in one side or another, or you add some more tanks into the mix. We'll see how that works out. You have a Widow on one side of the field, so Florida's going to have to hide in their holes and stay out of sight lines.
Yeah, that's not so much an issue. We saw the same from Tvik in the first push as well, so we'll see if he can get that same result. And once again, that's unreal. It's the exact same start. Neko snipes Logix, and there's the man advantage. That's exactly what Boston were looking for.
Logix isn't even going after him. Does he owe Neko money? What is this vendetta here?
This is unbelievable. He's got the charge again with the volley. He gets a headshot, doing the damage and the heals. This man is on top of it all. So Striker, you can see kind of dancing in on the edge, looking for a soft target, looking for somebody to get on here. He's looking for the guys who are actually going to be trying to run back in after the res.
They have to drop down from the top because they don't want to give up any more free progress onto the point. Now these tanks are just becoming alt batteries for Striker as they try to near the second point. They do get that second tick. Progress continues.
And they get the T-Mech as well. Life is going to get more difficult. Striker with the style points. Swoosh is gone. And that is going to be the follow-up. This is turning into the Striker show, and this is exactly what he wants to be doing. Just shooting at the back line, dropping support players left and right. Tracer is such a powerful hero to play.
He was just waiting down there like a piranha for those tanks. They kept dipping their toes in the water just trying to stop the progress on the point, and he just ate them up.
That was sick to watch. And all that sets up Boston. Look at that, how much time they have to work with now, over 6 minutes. So they can be very patient about this, but it doesn't look like they're interested in waiting whatsoever. Tvik just barely hanging in there. Just barely gonna survive. The hail of missiles coming in from Kalios, who really committed to that fight, who's gonna have to try and back out. His teammate has used the Transcendence as well. Neko trying to buy a little bit of time, but not quite gonna happen. Dreamcast hunting for a target. Enemy at the gates, and there we go. Ron Perlman, he's just got, you know, he just ached a little bit there.
That was Vasily right there. Vasily is up at the top of the arch, getting work done. However, this is only going to buy them time to come back in. He's waited for the rest of the team, the resurrections that they needed to get, come back in here, and the pressure continues.
Still, I mean, this is sick because now he can see through the walls. He can really line up those shots. And you can see he's hunting, nearly connects with Mercy. That would be a massive kill if he could take if he could take Zupe rather out of the fight.
Trying to find the angles here. They're doing a good job of playing behind walls and not necessarily giving him anything to shoot at, but they have to be very cognizant that he is up there. They go for it again. This time, he's got the extra HP, so not going to get launched out of the sky.
He is just a straight bouncer. There we go, finally. Swoosh not having a great time here, having to deal with this Widow. That is no fun, but that is an even bigger one. Denies the tire, and ultimate gone to waste. And all because Dream Casper just can't seem to miss right now.
It's been okay, but it's not enough. And if you're not getting an overwhelming amount of damage or picks with this Widow, you have to go switch because you need that pressure on the point. You need the body on the point. This might be a Reaper. No, Genji, I think, is actually the better call here. We spoke about his Genji on the way in because you want the overwhelming win on the fight. You need 3 kills from a Dragon Blade to really start getting progress on the point.
You got to swing it your way. And you're right, the comfort pick, right? All right, time to go to it. See if you can get some shurikens to connect with faces. Striker. Again, it's going to be the Striker show. We're going to see who he's going to be able to hunt down this time. Logix. Oh, Tvik. Nicely done with the mine. And that'll buy them just a little bit more time here, Florida Mayhem. A moment to breathe. Dream Casper just chucking in those pointy stars, seeing if he can get any kind of Volt Charge going for himself.
It was also the perfect time to switch to Genji too, because they just used everything. So it's not like they were setting up a next big attack of we're going to go in with Valk, we're going to go in with Transcend. It had all been used. So by the time those support ults are up, if Dream Casper can get his poke in, then they should have a blade for him to use as well. This next rush, they're not hoping to win. They're hoping to get something going and hoping to build up ults.
Just kind of glancing around. I don't think he's going to be too surprised to see the supports in the back line, but Striker still manages to find the kill on the side. That is one of the reses used as well.
They've already won this fight. Both support ultimates from Florida Mayhem have been burned out on top of each other. That was Valkyrie gone. That is Transcendence gone. That is exactly what you want from that rush. You have no notions of winning that fight or taking that point, but you already won by making them burn ults. Look at the other side. Transcendence up, Valkyrie up. They're ready to go, and Casper will have his blade during this next fight.
This is going to be fascinating, though, because Evoside now switches over to the Sombra. He's going to have to charge one hell of a fast EMP here to be present in the next fight. Although Neko has been brought back up, the wings already out here for Kelix. That heal, the chain heal as well, going to make the difference. And Dream Casper hunting for the support players. He's got the Dragon Blade, and sure enough, he's going for it. Chops one, chops two, and he could make three as well, but there's nobody left.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. He waited for the Mercy to give him the burst that he needed. And that fight is set up by the one before it. Mayhem got baited into using both of their support ults. The preemptive Valkyrie on the other side of things comes in, and they have everything they need to win that fight. That was a fight won due to only economy management.
Yeah, great calls right now from Boston. Truly impressed with their play so far. And they got to the slow start on the first map on Dorado, but they have truly shown us what they're capable of here on the second map, and they have quite a bit of time to work with now in the bank as well. 3 minutes 26. That's fairly solid work. And so now the pressure is on for Florida. They've got a minute to make some magic happen here.
It took them over a minute to take point A on their first attack. So this is going to be asking for something unprecedented. They need a clean entry here. And if I'm Logix and I'm playing that Tracer, I'm avoiding Neko like the plague.
Yeah, doesn't really seem like he's been given much of a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It just happens. Maybe, I don't know, Fate kind of pissed at him right now. He just happens to be intercepting orbs, just flying through angles.
He's got to pray to the Omnic God, because clearly Zenyatta's dishing out some spitefulness.
Yeah, the wrath right now. I'm impressed. Boston really showing what they're capable of here. But that's not to say that there isn't the talent on Florida to turn things around. You can never discount players like Vic, like Logix. I mean, we've seen it from Logix as well. So very curious to see here. It's going to be the Tracer pick for Logix by the looks of things, and it looks like they want to try and go back to what worked in the first round on offense for them. Florida Mayhem pick will be on the Widow, hoping for a pick to start things off.
This is 3 DPS, and when Boston identifies this, then Zupe is going to be target numero uno as the only source of healing on that Mayhem team.
Find out if it works. This is going to be a bit of a tough time here for Zupe as well. Now he's got to worry about getting the heals on the Pharah, who's going to be up there, out in the open. Not the best not the best ways to deal with Pharah here in terms of long-range hit scan, but we'll see how they can actually file. Never mind.
Oh my God!
It's unbelievable. Here I am saying, oh, well, X, I'm a little worried here for Boston. I don't quite think they've got what it takes to deal with. Never mind. Turns out he can just snipe orbs left. Oh, he even hits that one. Sure. Okay, cool. Keep styling.
It defies all logic. They're going to be playing on the point now, knowing that the Mayhem, the onus is on them to pressure the point out, and they've only got 10 seconds to do so. Time to throw some bodies at it.
Let's find out. I mean, they have to get on the point. They need a presence there. Once it ticks into overtime, things are going to get a bit dicey, and Kalios looking again to put the pressure here on the Pharah, and that's really drawing Zupe's attention, but Zupe will have Valk very soon. It's a question of how quickly here. 5% left. He needs to be able to pop it very quickly here to be able to keep his teammates alive and keep the hopes alive, but he gets Zupe! He dies! And that makes all of the difference. This really shifts over to Boston now. They should have the healing throughput. They should get the lockdown on this first point. And sure enough, a very solid hold with some clean picks in the end to get it done.
The one thing you don't want next to your name when you're in spawn and your team needs you is a check mark. And he had Valkyrie ready, unable to get it off before he got his wings clipped. And that is tough. The best they can hope for now is a draw here on Anubis, and they're going to have to defend point A for a little shy of 3.5 minutes, similar.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
That is a long time to hold point A. If you're like point B, okay, maybe, yeah, we got this. Yeah, we can do that. We can stall it out. But point A, this is going to be dicey. So I think we're going to have some clever stuff coming out here from Florida Mayhem.
Yesterday we talked a lot about Dreamcasper and Striker because it's easy to highlight the DPS, but if you don't know who Neko is, you better ask somebody.
Now he is doing work right now, and it's a lot of fun to see. Chaz on Gladiators really impressed me with his. I mean, it feels like Zenyatta is like, yeah, okay, you're playing support, and guys, if you want to get into support, kind of dip your toe in there, but still feel like you can do some damage, you can have an impact. Just look at these guys, right? Yes, okay, they're getting the healing orb out, but they're also finding kills that are contributing to these team fights.
Yeah, Battlefield Commander Zenyatta knows where everything is able to make calls, and yeah, I mean, healing is kind of secondary when I play Zenyatta. I'm like, yeah, here's an orb.
No, me too. I'm just calling out Discord.
I'm busy.
You know what? I know what's been going on here. They've obviously, these Zenyatas, they had a meeting with Doa.
Yeah.
And Doa was just like, guys, this is how you got to do it. And sure enough, you listen to Doa, good things happen. Magic. That's what it's all about.
The master Zen of the caster stack.
All right, so moving on. It is going to be Dreamcasper. Okay, so here's the change coming in here from Boston. They're willing to go for the Snipe War as well. And so Dreamcasper will be looking to find a pick fairly quickly here. Tvik has got success with the trap to start things off on the Junkrat.
Yeah, they've got Logix isolated on the left side, and that isolation leads to decimation as Logix goes down to Neko yet again.
Unbelievable. That hits you. I mean, we're just going to have to get a hard stat on that at this point. How many times has Neko ruined Logix's day? Many at this point now. Kalios just pumping shots in, trying to keep the pressure on, and that's exactly what he wants to be doing here as D.Va.
It's a great pick from Tvik, though, to take down Kelix, because that is a lot of healing now. That might be the one kill that they need to get in there, but they have to fight right on the point. The progress cannot go any further. It does seem like Boston will beat a hasty retreat.
Nice defense coming in, and they have the ults as well now on Zupe. We will have Valk, and I'm very curious to see where Tvik is going to be able to get that Riptire in, although he was denied a couple times when he was forced to play Junkrat in previous halves.
Dreamcasper has gone over to the Genji, and that's a backup. They're going to try to use some ults in this fight, but 2 minutes is enough for him to get a blade up.
Wow, Kelix not wasting any time whatsoever, and Dreamcasper there to pick things up. Immediately, both Valks in play, and this time Zupe's alive. That's a bonus, but Striker looking to end things here. Zebasai, is he going to get rezzed again? That'll be the question mark. Logix dropping dangerously low. Striker's just doing tremendous damage right now.
Logix was smartly able to get behind the bubble to keep himself alive, but he is still very low with no healing. Zupe goes down again to Gamsu, who has been targeting him out of the sky. And this one looks like it might be Boston taking a swift 2-0 lead.
And that's exactly what's going to happen. Boston. Boston Uprising right now, and it's going to come down to Florida here. After we hear from the desk, it's going to come down to Florida to try and regain some kind of momentum. They need to figure out what's going wrong and get their finger on it.
Got to get that 0 off the board. Whatever you can do to do it. I think a lot of it might be having to flex on a different composition, some kind of stubborn nature coming into play right now.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will hear what the desk has to think about these first 2 maps and what they predict for the final 2.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP and by Intel. We got a packed house of awesome fans, and speaking of awesome fans, we saw some really amazing viewing parties from teams all over the world yesterday. But there's one team in particular I want to give a shout out to, and that's the fans of the Boston Uprising. Last night you saw over 100 fans gathering at the greatest bar in Boston, and just like traditional sports, Boston's fans, they can be some of the loudest. Here's their celebration at the end of a big win against NYXL. And these guys were cheering, they were getting loud. We got some Boston fans in the house today, and I want to hear them equally loud because your team is now just one game away from taking down the Florida Mayhem. How do we get here? We're about to break it down, and it starts with Sideshow, who has her insights powered by Intel.
Yeah, I think one of the really important things that Boston has been able to do is shut down Logix in a lot of these situations. So this was the situation of Florida Mayhem pushing. They had a great snowball going, huge amount of time on the clock. And then they get into this position. So Tvik is locking off this angle here onto Dreamcasper, and that allows Logix to come around behind, and he's going to set up an angle in the courtyard. Dreamcasper, Kalios, and Kelex are all forced into this tiny little area on the top roof here. And if Logix manages to land a pulse bomb or force them out into Tvik's sightline, they'll be in a great position to keep this snowball rolling. Now, Dreamcasper and Neko particularly are way too smart for this though. You'll see that they are completely aware of Logix's positioning. They get a little glance of him there, and you see here that the Discord orb and a little flash from Neko at the same time as Dreamcasper's focusing, and Logix is obliterated. He's instantly scrubbed off the map, and they completely shut down all of Logix's little flanks. And it's this kind of stuff where they're putting the Discord target onto Logix and focusing him down that stops these dives working so well for Florida Mayhem.
You shut down Logix, and it seems that this team is starting to fall apart. As we take a look at some of the highlights here from our first game, I have to ask you, Bren, it can't just be that Logix isn't getting the job done. There has to be people causing problems for him on the Boston Uprising. What did you see throughout this game? Who is causing the biggest issue?
Yeah, so map 1 in particular, the real shining star here for Boston has to be Dreamcasper. The man's statistics across the board were really just quite phenomenal in terms of how much he was getting done. He was playing Genji primarily throughout the entire first map, and his damage statistics after the first half, he had 31% of his team's damage done, which is an absolutely ridiculous number. Normally, you say around 20% for Genji players because it's so hard to dish out that kind of damage.
I mean, also, this is so impressive because Striker's on his team, and he's also doing a huge amount of damage. So to do 31% when you've also got such a good DPS player is, again, phenomenal.
Incredible stuff coming out of Dreamcasper. For me, I thought it was all Gamsu and Striker. Apparently, there's somebody else in the mix. Kalios, you're there too. Let's keep talking about the action, though, as we continued into game number 2. It's Anubis, and we did not get the matchup that we saw between the Dallas Fuel and the Seoul Dynasty. This one was a bit more of a one-sided affair. As we take a look at some of the highlights here, let's talk about the composition. Sideshow, what did we see in game number 2?
Yeah, well, we saw similar kind of styles from both of the two teams, but what was most interesting to me was some of the ways that support ultimates were being used and the ultimate economy in general. There seemed to be a trend throughout this match of Boston Uprising having the more clean engagements and having a big macro plan of what they want to achieve in each push, and Florida Mayhem don't seem to have that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've got a fantastic clip to follow up that point about the ult economy, but this is just a general highlights you can see here. There was generally kicking off, but Boston Uprising looked so much better across the board. And there's that Dreamcasper. Dreamcasper didn't have a particularly great game in this map number 2, but thankfully he's got fantastic teammates like Striker, Gamsu, Kalios to pick up the slack where he left off.
And how many characters has he played now? I saw him running the Reaper for a little bit, going up against Tvik. You saw him on Genji there. We saw him on Hanzo back at Dorado. Dreamcasper really showing just how deep his hero pool is. But it just feels for me that Florida doesn't have the same cohesion as Boston, and we're about to see that in our next clip. Let's go ahead and break down what's going wrong with the supports, Bren.
Yeah, exactly. So on the side of Florida Mayhem, we've got a fantastic clip to show this one in general. This is the ult economy game again, that we're talking about. And you'll notice Florida Mayhem here, the support ultimate rotations across the board generally is not too fantastic. They're forced to use the Valkyrie early, you see Zupe moving in, but they overlap it with the Transcendence. You never really want to be doing that at all. You want to be sort of prolonging out your support ultimate so you get maximum value over a length of time.
Yeah, and this was Gamsu and Striker getting in there, insta-pick onto Zebasai, and this was a raw push for them. They had no ultimates up. They had no intention of actually closing out the map in that push because they knew that the support ultimates were available. So their entire plan there is to force out the Valkyrie and the Transcendence, and to get them both done in one fight so cleanly, that shows the level of coordination and the game plan coming out from Boston.
All right, let's talk about Florida. They're not out of this one yet. They could still win the next 2 games and force a tiebreaker in a Game 5. If they're going to do it, what mistakes do they need to shore up?
So we talked a little bit at the beginning about both of these teams having a similar style, and that is these coordinated dives. And you just saw a great example of what Boston are doing well, but here's an example of what Florida is perhaps doing a little bit less well. So towards the end of Dorado, we saw some more ambitious plays coming out from Swoosh in particular, and just in general more sloppy engagements on their team play. So this final fight at the end of Dorado really, I think, shows some of the issues that they're having in terms of cleanless that we didn't see when they played London. They were phenomenal on Dorado. So we have a replay that we can jump into at the end of Dorado. And you can see here that Swoosh is going to try and engage, but he makes it incredibly obvious. Now they have the Transcendence and a defense matrix to try and catch him. So although Swoosh looks like he's diving in super aggressively, Maniton can save him with the defense matrix, and Supe was trying to catch him with that Transcendence, but the timing is just off by a split second. And as ambitious as it can be, Dreamcasper cleans it all up as they just overextend.
Put your hands together for Sideshow. He crushed it this segment. Bren, you were pretty good too, but we're out of time. That means we're going to a commercial break. When we return, we'll find out, can the Mayhem hang? They got to battle back with Control when we come back. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places.
There's a kill for Tvik. Good start for Florida Mayhem now. A quick double support slaughter from the side of Boston Uprising. The hooks from Manitin have been so good, and Logic's untouched so far. Well, Striker, speaking of carries, man, he's got 3 kills already right now, and Manitin just annihilates Boston, resoundingly winning that fight. Nice shot again from Tvik. Oh, and that is a quick win for Boston Uprising, and that's going to put the period on the end of this sentence.
All right, welcome back from the break, everybody. This is it. I mean, Doa put it all right there for us. Very nice, very neat. But, you know, you're right. Striker has been carrying quite a bit. I feel like he's a real standout player right now for Boston.
It's pretty good, but I think when you have a Zenyatta like that, I think if Doa could have redone that voiceover, he would have talked a lot about Nako, who's just been
You're
crushed.
right, actually. You're actually right. We have no subs coming up in this match, so it seems like Boston are confident in sticking to their guns. And, well, we all know that Florida Mayhem, unfortunately, they don't really get the choice. Choice has been made for them. They only have the 6 players in the active roster. Boston actually do have the chance, but it looks like Boston, they're confident. I mean, everything has been working out for them so far. And so, I mean, do you agree with what do you agree with what Sideshow was saying on the desk as far as what Florida need to do to change things up? I mean, he was talking more about execution than anything.
Yeah, I think there are some composition things they can change up because we saw that New York had the read on Boston yesterday. The read was we're only going to play anti-dive, and because that's what Boston has shown. And yes, Boston has looked very good when they're in dive, but actually yesterday when we saw them forced off of that, their performance did struggle a little bit. So what you need to do against Boston, we've all seen what Boston's plan A is, and their plan A is very good. What's Boston's plan B? They struggle a little bit in the preseason with that, and when they have to switch things up, that's fine. I think you need to force them to switch things up. Whatever you have to do to get them off the dive. Now, Oasis, you can run a super anti-dive. You can run the halt and hook. You can run a Junkrat into it. A McCree is good on a lot of these maps, so I'd be surprised to not see some adjustment from Florida.
And we saw, I mean, Logic's really stood out with the McCree play. He definitely is very good at clicking on heads. And so excited to see that because it does look like the rosters are getting set up here. And, well, don't know if they're quite toying with us just yet, but Logic's will be on the McCree. And it looks like we will have the halt hook combo coming out from Florida as well. So they're pulling out all the stops here, Hex.
It does appear so. Now, I'm more interested in what we see going on with Boston right now because it is tank time for the most part. If that's what they're going to stick on, you've got a Zen. Gonna help, or sorry, excuse me, a Zarya. You know that those Z's throw me off. Zarya, Reinhardt.
They usually put me to sleep.
And a Roadhog, and then you're gonna have a Moira sighting, keeping all those big bodies alive. We saw this a little earlier on Lunar Colony. We'll see how it works in Oasis.
Yeah, exactly, except that they're not fully committing to it in a way because you still have Striker, who, and Logic's, unfortunately for him, he gets hooked immediately, and well, there will be the first kill. Striker following that up, but Striker on the McCree, so they haven't gone full tank, but I mean, this is so beastly. I mean, Dreamcaster just hooking and shooting people in the face left and right.
You have to think that's some sort of read, right? Because they're running with the Lucio right there. They almost instinctually know that Florida's going to run the halt and hook with Orisa and Roadhog, so they're going to be set up in a static position. So they boost through pack room, come on the flank, and get those initial kills. Now, when you have all these tanks, how do you even gain entry? How do you crack this? Tvik's going to try to do it with a Roadhog, which can be good against all these tanks.
Alios with full charge. This is brutal. Up to 100. I mean, full energy on the Zarya just means that she is dealing so much damage. You can see her just hunting down Manitin right now, really pouring on the pressure. And then, of course, you can switch over to the grenades and start doing AoE damage as well.
Tvik has something to say about it, though, too. He's got a tire that came in and took down Nako, so that is a lot of their healing down. And then he straight up jumps onto Zupe, who gets taken out as well.
So I think we can confidently say that we have our answer.
Yeah.
Sick Riptire.
Yeah.
Don't die to the Zarya. And just proceed to roll over everything in sight.
Yeah, Tvik was able to kill both supports. And it's as simple as that in Overwatch. If you don't have any healing, you know, everyone's heard that, I need healing. Well, it's kind of important to the game to need healing. And he was able to take down Nako and Kelix there.
But I don't see a Genji in the game, man. I don't know. You know, the I need healing. I feel like that's always the spam. Never mind. Okay, we're going to have the Graviton coming through. And already to pick another tire, and again drops both support players. This time, however, Boston have got kills of their own, and so we'll see if they're able to follow up and regain control of this point. And it does look like it. They were able to turn it in their favor, despite Tvik's best efforts. So Kalios with the final frag there on Manitin. But Manitin did manage to hold on to his whole hog, so we'll see when he decides to go for that. And we do have the Valkyrie in play here on Zebasai.
And there's no mercy on the other side of things for Boston, so they're not going to have resurrection mechanics. Although Boston reaching a tipping point of their own, because now you have it to the point of the game where you can start staggering Earth Shatter into grab, into Earth Shatter into grab every single fight. And if you can find value with those ultimates, you're winning team fights.
They need to be careful here. Not wanting to overextend, and as I say it, they do get the hook, but it's still Kalios. Doesn't matter. Manages to get the kill on Manitin before Manitin can do the damage. Zebasai will be there to pick up Manitin once again, though, and I'm liking it here from Striker, being very aware of his positioning, does not want to get too far in there, wants to stay back and just use the Peacekeeper to put the shots in.
They forced them to use the Valkyrie all the way outside before they could even gain entry. No one's even touched the point just yet. A hook and a shot to the dome as Casper and Striker team up for a couple kills. And despite using the Valkyrie, the Mayhem have yet to gain control of the point again.
At least he has held on to it, but right now they are going to give ground once again, just making sure not to overextend. That's so important. Another hook landed by Dream Casper. This man is a menace. Somebody's got to shut him down or at least take his bait away so he stops catching things, because right now the overtime wick is burning, and at least Florida Mayhem have somewhat, at least a little bit of presence here on the point. Logic's in the back line putting those shotguns to use.
The grab did so much work early in this fight, so now it's just desperation, and there's only one body left. That is Logic's, who meets his demise. Boston Uprising with a switch up of tactics. That's not a dive composition. Good to see they can run something else, and it looked like they had a pretty good read on what Florida wanted to run there.
I think you're spot on, Hex, with your initial assessment as well. Getting that flank in there, really just pulling a fast one on Florida and not letting them get comfortable, not letting them set the pace. They were the ones who took the fight to them, and it felt like Florida were never really able to get their legs back under them after that initial conflict.
It's the variant of the tanks, right? Because when you're running Moira, your tanks are this mobile death ball unit. When you're running Orisa and the Mercy, you want to set up statically. Yoink people into the hole. Yoink and set them up for hooks. I think it's called halt. I've always called it yoink because I'm a Simpsons fan. But
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. You saw that super aggressive boost in and getting that first hook, and after that, it was Tavik doing his best to keep his team's head above water. Simply wasn't enough.
All right, so once again, it will be a focus on tanks here for Boston. Looks like they're kind of content to run the same thing. We do have McCree on Striker, and he was certainly doing fantastic work. I like this from Cavs too, managing the shield. Don't want to let that barrier fade too quickly. Kelix, obviously you got to be worried about Kelix. You do not want to get booped off the side here. So positioning is going to be key for Florida, but the pressure is really getting poured on. Kalios and Striker finding 2 kills to start things off. And again, Boston looking like they'll come out ahead here, capping this point.
This is super fun to watch. When you think of Death Ball, you think of slow, methodical march like a Roman legion. They are just ramping it up. This is a Death Ball on high octane. They're going after it, and it is fun to watch.
It's fun to watch that Reinhardt has hops after all. Yeah. I mean, you'd think that he'd be a bit too heavy in that suit, you know, old age.
He probably has some jets under his shoes. You know, he's got a jet in the hammer, a jet in his back. He's mechanically assisted.
Mechanically assisted. You know, in the future, I hope that I get a suit of armor instead of having to use a cane. But let's see. Dream Casper looking for the hooks in the back line. He has spotted out Logix again. Turns out you got to do it the other way around. And sure enough, first pick for him. This man, he just cannot be stopped. Dream Casper's just doing so much work.
It seems like a little bit of lack of coordination here because Tavik's all alone, while the person you want to be behind is your Reinhardt, who is up swinging away. They have to burn Valkyrie here, but it only brings them back to even 6v6. Got to get some kills. They get grabbed. The whole hog comes in, but the shields are up.
And the shield is up, but it's not going to last long against the whole hog. That thing pours out so much damage so quickly. And I love the detail as well. Getting the hook on the Reinhardt, dropping the shield as Striker uses the Deadeye. Nowhere to hide. Gets the kill. Right now, Boston are doing a fantastic job. Florida, they're struggling to keep up.
And this is the Death Ball Snowball. You saw grab used there from Zarya, keeping everyone together. That's generally a team fight win. Next is going to be Earthshatter. Can they block it? On the other side of things, Manitin is going to be the man to watch as he's got a Graviton of his own to use.
So once again, they're trying to stay strength in numbers here, Florida. They're trying to stick together, and that's exactly what you want to see. You want to play around that Rhine and the barrier, the protection that it will give you. And there we go, the grab coming out, and this is going to be the big opportunity. We, of course, have Moira just pouring healing in there, and the Coalescence perfectly timed. Nobody dies. Florida unable to get a single kill.
Coalescence, one of the better defensive support ults in the game, especially when you get grabbed. Moira can get out of grab. She's one of the only heroes in the entire game now which can escape a Graviton. Keeps everyone alive with that healing and that Coalescence. They didn't get exactly what they're looking for, and Zebo will fall to Moira. the flex support flexing on offense.
Naiko, man, he is a true force of nature. This is unbelievable. Perfectly done with the orbs as well. That orb does so much damage so quickly. And it will take over, and Boston Uprising will extend their lead. 3 maps, they will win the series. But of course, Florida, when it comes down to the end of the season, every map counts. And so we will be playing out the 4th, and we will be, obviously, if you're a Florida fan, crossing your fingers and hoping that they can get something out of this.
They did get a tweet earlier from T-Pain, so he's rooting for him. He's somewhere out on a boat, hoping that Florida can wipe that 0 off the board.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will have the conclusion of our 2nd series of the day between the Florida Mayhem, that is, and the Boston Uprising.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel and Omen by HP.
Everybody hyped to get into the final map here of this 2nd series of the day. And so far, I mean, if you're a Boston fan, you're over the moon right now. It's Florida who are trying to figure out a way to put a halt to this devastating offense that they've been having to deal with. I mean, we just had the Dreamcaster show right there with the Roadhog.
And map scores do matter, of course, so we're going to play out this 4th one. And also, I'm not a fan of zeros, man. You got to get that goose egg off the board. No one deserves a 0. We have no subs coming in, but you see it has been the Boston Uprising dominant so far. Dorado, Anubis, Oasis, they looked unstoppable on. Next, we're going to go to Eichenwalda. I've said it like 15 different ways. I get corrected by different people every time, so there's no pleasing everybody, I've learned. This could be a map that I think Boston can continue to run just dive on. It's a fine map to keep diving on. You can take away high ground. So really the onus is going to be on Florida to show some versatility, to understand what they're up against and make the proper changes.
They got caught flat-footed on the last map, which was Oasis. We saw some clever strategies put in use there from Boston to try and counter their anti-dive. But you're right, on the first point here, they are really going to have to find a way to shut the door on Boston. That is going to be Florida. And curious to see what the solution is going to be, because there are a few options when it comes to anti-dive. You've already outlined a few of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what they want to run. Of course, Boston will be on defense first as we fly through the map. Now, the second point of Eichenwald I always found fascinating. It's a really long push. You're generally going to get 2 to 3 fights out here, even if you get full team wiped. And they change so much because as you push through the first bend, then the offense gets advantage of the high ground, and you're pushing through this bridge. And I always love a map with a moat. If you can knock someone into a moat, it makes me happy.
I could just picture you with a home, a moat, some gators in there.
Yeah, like Great Expectations. My house has its own personal moat.
Doesn't have to be a big one. It's only like a couple feet wide, but still it's a moat. You dug it yourself.
Yeah, generally I just put a kiddie pool outside of the front door.
That's enough said. Little inflatable gator. I mean, we're going to get into the action, guys. It has begun. The countdown has begun to get into the last map of this series, and it will be Boston Uprising on the defense as the home team. And on the away team, Florida Mayhem. It's looking like Tvik, at least to start, is looking at the Pharah with fairly common pick here for the first point on Eichenwald.
Yeah, somewhat uncommon is that the defense is going to run a Pharah of their own in Dreamcasper, so we're going to be treated to a little bit of Top Gun action. Now, sometimes they just duel at each other and no one's hitting any rockets, and then it becomes up to the Tracers on the ground to try to clean up and get some damage done.
You got to follow up on the damage, and this will be down to the comms as well. You have to call out those hot targets, who you need to be focusing on. And they're doing a very fine job right now of not really giving Tvik too many targets to work with. I mean, Tvik right now, you can see he's just kind of chucking rockets in there, hoping that something connects, because the only people he can really get on are the D.Va, and D.Va, of course, can just cancel those out.
Yeah, he's doing a good job of ignoring the Pharah v Pharah, because it can be so volatile when they're so far away. He's just trying to help out the ground war. He's trying to chunk them down, and right away, that D.Va already going to get demeched, I believe, by Tvik right there. So far, though, they've lost one of their healers on the ground on this offense. They might just try to stall out and wait for the Zen to get back into the fight.
Now, Gamsu has just been revived as well, not rezzed, but he has come back to life, and so he'll be making his way back over here. He's got the jump pack, though, so that doesn't take too long for Winston. And so far, they're doing a very good job of stalling things out here, Boston. They've wasted a minute so far for Florida.
Yeah, if you're the defense, you don't care. You're not going to go fight this because they're not doing anything. They're not making any progress. A big chunky rocket out of the Mercy.
Oh, no way, Tvik! 3 rockets in a row, and one of them equals a death. That was big.
Tvik does his best right there. They do actually resurrect the deaths that were on the ground, and it is just Casper right now trying to bring this back for his team. Tvik turns his attention to the ground yet again. Still trying to stall this one out, but based on the back of Tvik's air-v-air, the Sidewinder missiles up there, Florida Mayhem will grab the first point, but they want to stall this out a little more, maybe not.
Oh, and Mercy was able to get there fairly quick as well, so Gamsu lived. He didn't just get picked off immediately. This is going to get a little dicey, though. Calyx will get caught eventually, and that, I mean, it has to take over. But they really want to try and maximize as much time out of this as possible, Boston. Down to 2 minutes, about 2 minutes 15 before it was finally able to take over there for Florida Mayhem. But you got to give it to Tvik. He was tired of the games.
Yeah,
he's tired of the defensive games. If you guys aren't going to bring the fight to me, well, I'm going to go to you, and you aren't going to like it. Showing us how versatile he is.
Watch Manitin here, because the self-destruct can be so good against a Pharah and Mercy, especially on this area where they're going to be caught out in the open. There's not a whole lot of geography they can use to get out of there. Again, that is a brave resurrection from Calyx. Will they make him pay for it?
That's unbelievable. Question is whether Striker's going to cash in on it as well. I mean, he's still here. They are on the payload. By the way, Florida, you need to push that. And Boston, they're playing so aggressively right now, taking advantage of this choke point and really trying to pour the pressure on, and sure enough, Striker, he gets a kill on Zebasai. I think they're going to continue to stall out here.
Is ideally where you want to hold on defense, actually. It's called a gate hold, and there's really no good way to break it. You got to use ultimates to break it, which is a win for the defense if you have to start using support ultimates to get through here.
Oh!
And look at that! He did not bring in an umbrella, and justice reigns from above.
Oh, the style, boys. You gotta love it. And Manitin, well, Manitin, he does have the self-destruct, and that's exactly what he's gonna use here to try and just finally turn the tide towards Florida. And it will happen. I mean, Striker is still around. He's trying to be a nuisance. He's buying a little bit more time here. They just can't. Finally, Tvik is able to connect with the rocket.
Again, already a win right there, because that 0 next to Zebasai's name means he used Valkyrie just to get out of the gate. That's exactly what you want to force out of the defense. Boston's done a great job this entire match of forcing ultimates and making their opponent play into that.
I'm liking this as well. The fact that Dreamcasper and Calyx are able to get through. You can see Florida, we're trying to bottle up Boston by a little bit more time, not let them to get out through the choke point doorways there. But instead, thanks to Dream, you actually have the space to work with here. Gamsu just doing his thing. I mean, he is so good at getting in and just causing chaos.
Yeah, Gamsu has been crushing it today. He's cleaning up all the kills. Him and Striker working so well together in that dive, that unit of Tracer and Winston. Not only is it lore that they're very good friends, but in the game they work well together.
Yeah, it was Doomfist who wasn't too happy about that friendship. Ended up costing him a few years, I think.
I don't think I've ever met a happy Doomfist.
Doomfist, well, they're out there somewhere. Actually, there was on Reddit, there was a sick thread. Style points for that Doom over there. Okay, whatever. You guys can go and check it out if you want during the break. But now, it is going to be Striker doing his thing, and sure enough, it is exactly that. Finds a kill immediately.
The most appropriate name right now in all the Overwatch League, Striker, as he continues to go forth and conquer this team. It's all the way in back. No escape from Striker's pulse pistols. My goodness. Florida's going to try to go to the well and find something to crack through. Tavik was on a Widow for a moment to try to deal with it because Casper simply got the better angles on the Pharah. Instead, he's on the McCree, but if they're going to door hold, I don't know where McCree's going to set up a good angle to try to get to this Pharah Mercy.
Exactly right, especially because he's going to be somewhat limited with the barriers. Doesn't really have an Orisa or a Reinhardt to stand behind and just plink away with. So Tavik, he's going to have to work some of his magic here, and we'll see if he can pull it off. Gamsu is dangerously close, and he actually goes for the Primal Rage to stay alive. Keep the pressure going. Tavik will connect with Kelix, but Dreamcasper's right there to get that frag right back.
They sent in Swoosh early to create the chaos factor so that Tavik could try to pick people up on the ground as he made space up top with the Primal Rage. Logix finally comes to life. One of the first times we've seen him in the kill feed on Eichenwald, taking out Casper and DMEC and Kalios. That's a full reset. But knowing Boston, if they can get the proper spawns, they're going to fight this yet again. They're not giving up door for free.
You can already see him peek it out. Zupe was hoping to get the volley in there. There we get a cheeky frag, but instead we're going to get the replay here from Logix, who definitely went to work, keeping so much damage. Exactly, the pulse bomb. Oh, the collateral. That's brutal, and already we've got the fight going here. Dreamcasper with the barrage manages to pick up 2 kills, but Zebasai is there with the res to keep the fight going. And so now it's on Logix, kind of dodging around. It will not fall to the self-destruct. Clean play from him, good use of mechanics.
Well, they took down both tanks very early in that fight, so there's going to be no one to really block any of this damage. And here Zebo comes in, does bring up Tavik. It's a post-Valkyrie resurrection. Still trying to fight this out, but it might be time for a reset. But I think that time actually may have passed. Only 16 seconds. Gotta stay alive, gotta keep someone up so you can touch the cart. That's crucial, because Logix is gonna be the guy who has to get to the cart and keep it alive.
Finally, that was starting to get a little ridiculous there. But there, they have to get some kind of presence. Time is ticking down, 2 seconds left. Who's going to commit? It looks like it will be Swoosh fighting there with the Tesla Cannon, trying to keep things alive. And there it is, the Transcendence used in Vuln. Zenyatta just buying as much time as possible. They need to win this fight decisively, Florida, but Boston doing a fairly decent job of keeping their hopes going.
Well, they have to stay on the cart, but now they're not going to have a resurrection. Zebo died early in that last fight and switched to Lucio to get back to the point. He gets back to the point, but all for naught as Kelix brings Dreamcasper back to life. No resurrections on the side of the Mayhem, and it looks like that is a bridge too far.
Sure enough, Dreamcasper, just a barrage of missiles at the end. And I mean, all right, Hex, what do Florida need to do here now to try and make this happen for them? Because it doesn't feel like they were able to push that payload too far.
There are strategies on Eichenwald that involve some of the finest cheddar cheese in the world.
It turns out I'm French. We're fans of cheese. Hit me. What do we got?
Well, I'm from Wisconsin. We make a pretty mean sharp cheddar. Torb can happen on first point offense. You can put a Torb and a Orisa in a corner and try to deal with it that way. I don't think the Pharah v Pharah went well enough for them that they want to run a Pharah on the defense. I think maybe Logix runs a Soldier 76 to try to put some pressure on what I'm assuming will be an offensive Pharah and Mercy. And then McCree can be run by Tavik. You could switch those up either way, but I think you can run a double hit scan into this. The McCree sits with the supports and make sure Striker at least has to think twice about getting back to the back line there, maybe a flashbang headshot, and then enough pressure to force them off of it. Now that'll work once or twice, and then Casper's gonna switch to Genji, and you have to hope you can deal with that.
You're gonna have to deal with multiple of the targets. I mean, he's only got 1 flashbang. It takes a little bit of time to get them back. So,
which is why you need someone else to deal with the other target. Because McCree can be overwhelmed. One of the best duelers in the game. If you have played any of the deathmatch in Overwatch, you know it's 7 McCrees and then you're the dumb guy who picks Tracer.
No. You're the annoying guy who picks Moira. You're the really, really annoying guy who picks Moira.
I'm the person in the chateau in the basement playing Symmetra. So
Oh, man.
come on down to the turret part.
You're an abomination, Nick. I don't know what to say. So now we're going to get to a bit of a look at the setup, and it doesn't look like, well, I mean, we will have the McCree in play, so they will have some answers here for the Pharah,
but this is the dive catcher. That's what it's supposed to be. This is why you have the Junkrat, why you have the McCree, and why you have the Roadhog. This has worked on several other maps. This has worked for New York against Boston. However, Boston not running a traditional dive. They're going to try to boost in. Oddly enough, they're not running a Zenyatta, but they're going to try to just get angles. This is cool, but Casper goes over the top first and is met by Logix.
he's going to get it. He does get over eventually. That was awkward. Oh, man. I love it, though. I love seeing innovative play. That's what it's all about.
You know when your parents asked if your friends jumped off a bridge, so would you? I believe the answer is yes, and sometimes it makes sense.
Listen, playing in high places, sometimes it gets painful.
Okay, so they tried something cool. Now they're back to pure dive. Nako has gone over to the Zenyatta, and Casper's on the Genji. So this should be, in theory, Florida should be able to catch this correctly, but Boston's dive is really well synced.
It's what we saw in Anubis, right? Second map, they really looked clean. They were good on the coordination, and already Nako just pouring it in. He picks up 1 kill already. That's going to help. And Dreamcasper is there to follow it up, and this is not looking good right now for Florida. They need to hang in here, and it's just not happening. Nako's not letting them. Nako doing so much damage. Logic, swoosh, everybody falls to him and his orbs.
And it's the order in which that happens, too. You take out the Junkrat first from a distance, and then your Tracer feels comfortable because she doesn't have to worry about the nade spam. I mean, it's not spam, it's area denial, whatever you want to call it. Then that goes in, takes down the Roadhog, so no one else has to worry about hooks, and then there goes McCree.
All right, Dreamcasper.
Up top, he's gonna try to cause some trouble. It's why Genji can be so good. He can climb walls. Wish I had that ability. Unfortunately, I can barely climb a ladder, but that is going to push them back. But no worries, they were just trying to get aggressive, and if they won that fight, they were gonna get ultra aggressive, send their flankers back to the gates, which they still will do, but that door isn't even open yet.
And Striker doing what Striker does best, which is exactly that. Harass the back lines, keep a little bit of a, make sure that they can't get too comfortable up there on the high ground, just letting them know, I know where you are. You're not gonna get a good night's sweet sleep here tonight.
Boston banking ultimates here, and they'd be a good investment to look forward to win this next fight. Valkyrie up, Transcend up, both DPS ults about to be up as well.
All right, well, there we go. Dreamcasper ready to dive in. He's getting zapped a little bit, but that doesn't matter when he's throwing shurikens and they hit the face of Logix. Everything is groovy for him, and he's even got the Dragon Blade in his back pocket as well, just looking for those soft targets to start chopping to bits, and he has spotted one. Logix gonna be worried just a little bit, and it looks like he doesn't even really want to use it. They've won this fight so convincingly, and they've done a very fine job of building up 3 other ults here to use in the next engagement, Boston.
Yeah, they've been fiscally conservative for sure. They both traded Valkyries that last fight, but it was Boston who came out on top. This could be a pulse bomb towards the end, and you just want the one with the stick, but if they happen to back up into someone else, you'll take the 2 right there, into the carts, takes down his Mercy. That is an apology letter waiting to happen.
Super clean. Just art. And all now, Dreamcasper, you can see he's looking for the targets. He's hunting. And while Kalios doesn't even need the help, he's got the self-destruct, and he's already taken out Zebasai. And so this fight is looking just a little bit grim here for Florida. They're running out of space to work with as well. And Dream eventually will figure out a way to get out of there. Tight spot when you've got an angry monkey just beating your face in.
But it's really smart. The deflect doesn't put that damage back, but it does prevent you from taking that damage. So he stays alive. He knows that they've traded off their support players, so it's just going to be a brawl. However, the source of healing that Boston has is that payload. The payload will heal the team pushing it, so you do have a small advantage when healing when all other options are gone.
So now quick move out here from Florida. Just doing the best that they can to try and stall things out, and finally we're gonna see the Dragon Blade take effect, and there it is, the perfect situation for Dreamcasper. All of them stacked up, that's exactly what he wants, and just like that, the Florida Mayhem, they get swept. The payload is moving forward, and there are no kills for Manhattan. The self-destruct did go off, but it wasn't good enough, and he is the last solution here. He is the last option for Florida, and it wasn't good enough. Boston, they will close it with a resounding victory, 4-0 over the Florida Mayhem.
Dreamcasper put the hopes of Florida to bed there. He is their closer. Striker keeps it up during it, but I talked about earlier in the Assault maps, and Genji's been a must-pick on Assault, in my opinion, for a long time because he can close out a team by himself and quickly. That's how you win fights. You don't want to have to deal with people staggering back. Oh no, there's a Mercy coming back. Now there's 3 people alive. You kill everyone, and Dragon Blade is one of the best ultimates to do it.
Especially when you've got your teammates that are working with you as well, to just group them all up together. Does AoE with those slashes. It's a sword. It happens to go through multiple things that they have to be standing next to each other. Pretty cool, that.
Well, and Gamsu, I mean, he's just always in their face, so everyone's backing off. He puts Baby in the corner, and Dreamcasper comes in like a horror movie, slashes everyone to bits. Yes, he's going to get all the credit because that's how the kill feed works, but these tanks for Boston have been ultra impressive. The supports have stepped up, and I think, you know, they've opened a lot of eyes, even just by taking a map yesterday. What they just did to Florida was impressive.
Yeah, Nako in particular stands out. But we are now going to hand it over to Zoe, who's on the floor with Dreamcasper for an interview. Zoe, it's all you.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, Dreamcasper is now joining me. First of all, of course, give it up for the Boston Uprising, who just took this match in a convincing fashion. Now, coming into this, you guys embraced the role of the underdogs. You couldn't stress it enough. After a convincing win like that and a solid performance yesterday against NYXL, do you still consider yourself that?
Not really. Like, I think, yeah, we're like, people consider us underdogs, but I don't think, as shown, we're not as underdogs anymore. So I think we can rise to the top.
Between the two of us, I don't think you're underdogs whatsoever. Now, looking back at the holiday season, word on the street, and mainly in the Blizzard Arena, was that you actually you guys stayed here and practiced really hard. What was the main focus?
Well, we were focusing just on our NYXL match, and then we prepared for that, but there were small obstacles we couldn't cross over. But after that match, we prepared really hard for Mayhem, and it worked out really good.
Yeah, this obviously paid off. We can't wait to see you guys again on this stage. Thanks a lot for joining me here. And you guys should stay tuned. We're going to break down this match after just a quick break. So we'll be right back.